Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a brand new Toyota Land Cruiser. We've installed the M&R Reverse Light Kit, which offers powerful white light as well as amber or red backlighting features. Alright, before we do the install, let me take everything out of the package. I'll show you what we have. So what you're getting in this kit, you're going to get two lights, two cradles. You're going to get all the bolts and mounting hardware, and you're going to get two M&R brackets. So the first thing, I want to assemble the cradles to the lights. And this tab here faces forward, so that's towards the light. And then I'm going to use the supplied Allen bolts in order to hold the cradle to the light. So there's no up and down of the light, so it doesn't matter from which side you attach the cradle. So now we're going to install these M&R brackets onto the vehicle. There is no left or right or up and down. The only difference is that there is a hole and an oval. The hole is going to go on the factory bolt, and the oval is going to go onto the bolt that's holding the light. So let me show you how I install it. Alright, so now we're under the Land Cruiser. I'm actually right next to the trailer hitch wiring module and right next to the exhaust. There's a bolt here that's very sturdy, so I'm going to take this out. It's a 10mm bolt. I'm going to slide this through the M&R bracket. Just as a reminder, on the M&R bracket there's a circle and an oval. When we take out this bolt, there's a bushing around the thread. So this is going to go on the circle side, and then the oval side is going to go for the light. So once we thread that back in with the bushing, we're going to mount it back in. The other side of the bracket, the oval part, it goes towards the inside of the truck because we're trying to get away from the exhaust. So the light's going to be in between the exhaust and the trailer wiring. Alright, so now that the bracket is tight to the frame, we're going to go ahead and grab our pod, and we're going to use the supplied mounting hardware to secure the cradle with the light to the bracket. So I'm using just 2 wrenches in order to mount the light to the M&R bracket. So when we mounted the light, we wanted to keep it as far away from the exhaust as close to the reverse trailer harness without it getting in the way of putting something in. And we can move on to the passenger side. Alright, so now we're on the passenger side. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to loosen this 10mm bolt. We're going to slide the round portion over this bushing, and we're going to reinstall it. Now I'm going to grab the light and use the supplied mounting hardware. Secure the light to the M&R bracket. So tighten this bolt again a little bit, and we're pretty much done with the mounting. So now it's time for wiring. What we're going to do, we have a wireless control panel in the engine bay, so I'm going to actually extend these wires to the engine bay. Some people like to tie in all these lights into the trailer hitch wiring, but the problem that we've experienced is that the vehicle is going to think you have a trailer behind it, and it's going to deactivate all your sensors in the back. Some people don't like to lose those. Also, I like to be able to turn on these lights without putting the truck in reverse. Each light has 3 wires. It has the red wire, which is the positive for the main function, which is white. It has a black wire, which is the ground, and it also has a white wire, which is the backlighting. For this light, the backlighting that we chose is red. So I have the wiring for both of my pods. I'm going to take off the protective sheathing. I'm going to group 2 reds together, and I'm going to put a crimp connector on here. These are waterproof crimp connectors. When you apply heat to them, they're going to shrivel up. So my final step of the install, after everything is working, I'm going to apply heat to these so that way they become a waterproof fitting. Tug on it to make sure you have a good crimp. I'm going to group 2 black wires together. Those are going to be my grounds. And I'm going to group the 2 whites together, and those are the backlighting features. And that's going to be red. So now that we have all the lights fused together, and I put crimp connectors on here, we're going to use this wire. It's a dual strand 14 gauge wire that we sourced on Amazon. We're going to use these as 2 positive sources, and I've also cut off a little bit of the black wire in order to make my grounding strap for these lights. So this is what I'm going to do with that grounding strap. This is roughly 2-3 feet. I'm going to take one end on here, and I'm going to connect it to the black, and we're going to extend the ground because I didn't see anything here that we could use to ground the lights. So that's going to ground the black wire. So we're going to go black to black. One end goes into the crimp. One end we're going to put an eyelid. Okay, so now that we've crimped the grounding strap with the eyelid onto the black crimp of the lights, we can actually ground this. Alright, so then there's a bolt here on the right side of the tire. We're going to use that to ground our light. So I'm going to back this out. I'm going to take the grounding strap. I'm going to actually throw a grounding strap here. There's a plate. I want to go on the opposite side so it doesn't have tension. So I'm going to go above that plate that holds the tire carrier. I'm going to slide the eyelid of the crimp through the factory bolt, and I'm going to reinstall it. So this is going to provide a good ground for our lights. Nice and tight. Alright, so we're done with the ground. Now we just have to worry about the 2 positive wires. Now we're going to extend these 2 power wires and connect them to our wireless harness. But I like to start from the front end and feed it towards the back, so that way we can connect it here and cut it in the front, and we have a perfect amount of length of wire. Also, please note that the only wire we're able to source for this install, it's a dual strand, red and black, where on the light we need to have a red and white. It doesn't matter as long as you remember that the white wire turns into the black wire, and the black wire is going to be the new DRL function. And if we go red to red, then the red wire is still going to be the main function of the light, which is the powerful white light. If you're able to source a wire that's red and white to extend it, feel free to do that if it's easier. Alright, as mentioned before, we're back in the engine bay, and now I'm going to feed the wire from the front towards the back of our reverse lights. I found an opening between this plastic, and it goes straight down, so you'll be able to retrieve it on the bottom. With the help of an assistant, they'll feed you the wire, and you can grab it there with needle nose pliers.
Just to let you guys know, we're putting it in this hole right over here.
So now that you're underneath the vehicle, you can pull it out, and we're going to route it around the frame, around some key components. So you want to go around the exhaust, and you want to go around the back axle. So if you want to follow me, I'll show you how I do it. Alright, so I'm taking this wire, I'm going on top of this rail. Alright, so we're going to go on top of the exhaust hanger as we pull on the wire. We can also use these tubes to keep our wiring as high as possible. Okay, as we tug on it. Alright, excellent. We can go around the skid plate. So I can go around all the shields and all the mounts. And now we're at an axle. So now we're on the axle. We're going to go above the axle. We're going to feed our wire up and to the back. So there's a loop here. I can feed it here, and now I'm trying to cross the axle and find a nice path to go around, so that way there's no pinch points. So I feel like we can use the upper control arm. So we're gonna hop over. We're gonna use zip ties all the way here, and I'll show you exactly what I zip tie to. You want to keep it away from the spring. So we're actually gonna go underneath the axle spring, and that's gonna protect our wire from the spring. And let me hop over on the other side of the axle and route it there. So now I'm going to go around the axle. So this is the axle. I want to go on top of it. So I'm going to hop over the axle from here, and we're going to zip tie to some of these harnesses. I'm going to go on the inside of this arm, and then we're almost there. We're going to zip tie to some of these, and we're going to go above the cross member. And the main reason you want to go above the axle is you gotta make sure when you articulate the axle up and down that it doesn't create a pinch point. So I think we're good. So now I'm going to connect it, and I'm going to start zip tying. Alright, so now I got my zip ties, so I'm going to start zip tying them to harnesses and hoses. And you just want to make sure that it stays stationary and doesn't sag, so that way they don't go into places where there's pinch points. I think the hardest part of this install is just getting this wire zip tied to all these components. Okay. And we're gonna work our way towards the front. So we do apologize, it's really difficult to film underneath the vehicle. but all we're trying to do is trying to find ways that we can secure the wire without it having any pinch points. So try the best you can to follow my areas where I'm attaching my wire and zip ties, but feel free to kind of deviate and just make sure that it's nice and tight. So now we're pretty much all done here. We're gonna go back into the engine bay. Because the Land Cruiser is not equipped with factory auxiliary switches, we're gonna use a wireless wiring harness to provide it power. The beauty behind the wireless wiring harness is the fact that you don't have to run switches into the engine bay. Let me show you how to assemble it and connect it to the vehicle. So we're just gonna take off the top from the control panel, and then I am going to show you where everything goes. So there's 4 Phillips screws, 2 on each side. So once we loosen the 4 Phillips screws, we can take off the cover, and I want to go over what's inside. So in the fuse box, everything is nicely insulated. It has epoxy for all the circuits. You do get all the fuses with different amperage ratings. You have 230s, 220s, 210s, and 25s. There's a sticker here where it says plus. This is where we're going to connect it to the battery. So there's going to be a positive lead going here, and this is going to be the ground. So it's as simple as that. Connect 2 cables that go to the battery and the chassis, and then you just connect all your accessories to it. So let's go back in the engine bay and I'm going to show you how to install this. So once we take off the cover to the main fuse box, we also have to take off a secondary cover here. There's 2 latches on this cover. There's one in the front and one in the back here. And the way to remove it, there's a tab that you have to pry going towards the back of the vehicle. So I'm going to stick my screwdriver here, pry this tab. Then the next pin, it's right behind. Okay, so now I'm gonna pry this tab going backwards as well. I'm gonna pull up on this cover. And now, since it released, we can take this cover off. So this exposes us with a 12 volt constant power. So now I'm gonna go ahead and connect the main power wire. And one thing I wanna do before I do that, I wanna disengage this fuse. So that way, when we're connecting it, there is no power on that end of the wire. I'm going to take the cover off and I'm going to press this reset button. So when this thing kicks out from being in line, now if this end is connected, there is no power going through the rest because it's disconnected here. I'm going to put this aside, and what I want to do, I want to slide this on this bolt. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and not completely remove this nut, but I'm just going to loosen it just enough so that way I can slide the terminal underneath it. And then I'm going to retighten it. So now that we have the positive wire connected to the positive terminal of the battery, I'm going to go ahead and slide this cover. You're not going to be able to lock the cover all the way because of the mold. It's only good for 1 wire. And then because we added another one, you could either make a cutout here to accommodate the new wire we added, or you could just not close it all the way. So let me show you how I'm going to have it. Alright, I'm going to have it like this, where it just won't click all the way down, but it's going to come really close, and then we can put the cover back on. Awesome. So now we have a 12 volt constant power source that we can connect to our wireless module. Now that we have the power wire connected to the positive lead on the battery, we can go ahead and slide the main power wire to the module. You can slide it under, and then we're going to connect it to the terminal that has a plus on it. So I'm going to slide it like this. I'm going to loosen this terminal. Okay. I'm going to slide the access wire back out of the module. Alright, so now that we've installed the positive onto the positive terminal of the module, we're going to do the same thing with the ground. So with the ground is going to be the black cable. I'm going to feed it through here. And this is the negative terminal. And I'm going to tighten the screw. Okay, so on the module we now have a positive that's connected to the battery, and we have a ground cable. We have to ground it on the chassis of the vehicle. You could use any bolt that touches the frame. There's one that touches the frame through the windshield washer fluid. I want to use this one, but don't ground it on the plastic part. Make sure to go between the bolt and the washer. So I'm just going to loosen it a little bit, slide the terminal, and tighten it back up. There it is. I'm going to grab this terminal, and I'm going to slide it in between the bolt and the washer. Alright, so I'm going to slide the terminal for the ground between the washer and the bolt, and I'm going to retighten it. Alright, awesome. So now we have this module that has power and is grounded. Alright, so now that we have the wire from our loom, now we know where we have to cut it to eliminate all the slack. So our wire is nice and tight, and it also is secure across the lower frame of the vehicle. So I'm going to take that wire, I cut it off from the main loom. I'm going to strip the two ends. So just to refresh our memory, the red is going to be the main function of the light, which is the powerful white light, and the black is going to be the new white wire that we transitioned into, which is the amber DRL. Now we're connecting this to the wireless harness. I'm going to go underneath here. So now I'm going to choose the last two circuits. One of them is going to be the main power, and one of them is going to be the DRL. Switch number 8 is going to be the DRL function. So we're going to connect the black cable to it, and switch number 7 is going to be our main function, which is the white light. We already have the grounded to the chassis of the vehicle in the back, so we're only worrying about the two positives. Let's go connect the other end of the wire to the lights, and we'll be able to test it. Okay, so we have our two power wires. I'm going to strip the ends, and we're going to crimp connect it to the two power wires of the lights. So we're going to go red to red. And here, the second power cable is going to be black. We're going to connect that to white. Now let's grab our remote and see if everything's wired properly. Alright, so let's test our wiring. Button number 8, that's going to be the DRL function, which is the back glow. And switch number 7, that's going to be the main function of the light. Looks like we wired everything correctly, and it looks amazing. We're going to zip tie this wire. We're going to put some heat on the crimp connectors, and we're going to go on a night apple video so I can show you how much light they actually produce compared to the factory reverse kit. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I know you guys are going to love the product.